Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut, the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee. Congressman, I don't need to tell you about this process. To me, as someone watching it, if they break it up into different parts, it has to go back to the Senate. There's a recess next week for Passover. And then it has to be voted again. They still, in the House, you guys have not, because of the Republican holdup, voted on what the Senate passed in February. And meanwhile, there's a war going on in Ukraine. And President Zelensky's forces are out of ammunition and out of the weapons that they need from the U.S.
Yeah, Andrea, it really couldn't be more disturbing. Ukrainians are dead. Ukrainian territory has been captured. Ukrainian power plants have been destroyed by the Russians because of Republican political infighting. The Senate passed this bill months ago. If the House had voted, and the vote would have been overwhelming, it would have been almost all of the Democrats with, let's say, half of the Republicans, none of that would be true. By the way, Israel, humanitarian aid, all of these things have been stopped by Republican infighting. And so, again, I'd hope that this would be the week. I'd hope that, the Speaker had finally figured out some convoluted way to address his politics. But now, we're back to the usual chaos. I'm keeping my fingers crossed because lives are at stake, and not just Ukrainian lives, Israeli lives. I mean, thank God over the weekend where there was a very real risk of a major regional war, we seem to have taken a small step back from that. Humanitarian aid in Gaza, I don't need to tell you how important that is. Hopefully this gets done this week.
But one other piece of this is that now, in the Republican plan, at least, unless it gets amended, they're talking about the aid to Ukraine being a so-called repo based on getting money unfrozen from Russian assets. Well, from my reporting, there's only $3 billion of Russian assets that are controlled by the U.S. Most of it is in Belgium. Some of it is in Japan, so that it can't be nearly what is needed in the $64 or $60 billion package in terms of new weapons.
That's right. And look, we should continue to have a conversation about whether Russian assets should be used to help rebuild Ukraine. By the way, one of the things they want to tack on to one of these four bills is yet another Twitter ban. They want to convert the grants that we have traditionally done to Ukraine to some sort of lend-lease forgivable loan. All of that stuff, look, let's have those conversations. But remember that with every hour that passes that we do not help Ukraine, Ukrainians who are fighting our fight against a brutal Russian authoritarian regime are dying. They are dying. In the meantime, we're having a conversation here about two flammable members of Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie. Two of 435 rather than saving lives in Ukraine. It's an ugly moment, and I just hope we can pull it out before the end of the week, because as you point out, if they need to build some Rube Goldberg mechanism in order to satisfy Marjorie Taylor Greene, it will be weeks before the Senate approves it, and many, many Ukrainians will die, and Israel will be at risk, and humanitarian aid will not get to Gaza.
Now, at the same time, Israel is saying that it will respond imminently to Iran's extraordinary, unprecedented attacks against Israel. If this thing escalates, and maybe already, how concerned are you that all of this is delaying any kind of hostage release and the possibility of a ceasefire and getting more aid into Gaza and getting hostages out?
Very, very concerned. I mean, a regional war, which if Israel, goes after Iran again. Now, let's step back here and remember what happened. Israel killed 7 military officers in a Damascus diplomatic facility. The Iranians had a very lame response that was largely taken down. I understand that maybe a missile may have hit an Air Force base and there was injury done to a young girl. But this is the moment for everybody to sit down and say, we had a punch and a counterpunch. Let's not turn this into a regional war, which would, be devastating in terms of fatalities, would be devastating in terms of the region, would be pretty quickly translated into higher gas prices at the American pump. I mean, we could just go on. Hostages would now be off the table. So this is a moment for everybody to be satisfied with the punch and the counterpunch, and let's get back to trying to solve the larger issues that we've been dealing with now for 6 months in Israel, Gaza.